G'day folks, Rod Moore here from Learn to Paint Academy and Learn to Paint TV. Welcome to this week's episode of Learn to Paint TV. Thought we'd have a bit of fun today and work from our imaginations and not use reference photo. So I'm just going to make up a scene here. I've got a 16 by 20 canvas and I've been looking at some Cézanne paintings recently, especially the ones that he did down around Provence, and I'm going to make up a little sort of French country scene straight out of my imagination, right? And it'll be a bit of fun, and hopefully you'll see the process and be able to then make up your own scenes or have a go at doing this one as well. We'll do a little stone sort of farmhouse on the banks of a river, and with some nice reflections and some nice trees. Should be a bit of fun, and we're going to be a bit loose, bit expressionistic, big bold brush marks, a little bit like the way Cézanne might have painted back in the day. So 16 by 20 canvas. We'll start off as always with step one of the Moore method, which is our drawing. So to get our drawing in, I've got ultramarine blue, permanent crimson or alizarin crimson, and a little small flat brush to do our drawing with. So let's start off with our little flat brush. We'll take these two colors here. Now, one of the things that Cézanne used to do, I think he probably used black. I'm not entirely sure, not having studied him that closely, but he would always do a fairly heavy outline around everything. And we'll do something similar here today with our step one. So I'll just mix up those two colors. I want it to be fairly loose, but if it's not, that's okay. And I want to have a river embankment running through here. So that's going to be our first line. Notice I'm about a quarter of the way up there. Oh, maybe a third. Don't go any higher than a third though with that. Okay. Notice I haven't tried to draw that neatly. As long as it's reasonably horizontal, that's all I really care about. Now my most important thing here is going to be my little farmhouse. So I'm going to make this up. I'm going to push it into that section there. And we're just going to use basic sort of shapes. I would just put a little stone tower there. Maybe it's sort of medieval era. There's the side of it there. Okay. And what will we do with this one here? Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll have a little peak there just in case it snows. Okay, so that's the basic shape that I want. So we'll make that a nice dark in there, and maybe there's some more foreground sort of trees and bushes in there as well, which will be nice. I think it probably needs to have a little bit of a mountain peak there where Cézanne grew up in Aix in Provence. He painted the mountain ridge there. I'm not going to try and do a direct copy of that, but we'll pop one in the distance there, just so we've got a bit of an interest. And around that then we'll obviously put some more foliage as well. We'll put a row of foliage there. So I'm not going to do any more than that. I'm going to leave it like that, and we'll move on to step two. Alrighty, let's do step two now. So I've switched to a bigger brush because our step two is our blocking. So I want to get some color down on here now. I've put up more ultramarine blue. I've run out of permanent crimson, so I've put up some magenta, which is a cool red, and it's transparent as well. And I've got my yellow ochre. So there are three primary colors that we use. If you don't understand why we use those particular colors, you should check out our color mixing course. So first steps, we need to get our darks in, okay? So we'll get our blue and our red happening there. I've got a crusty old brush. Have a look at the way I've mixed that paint up there, okay? Not a lot of skill involved in what I've done. I've just splashed the two together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just block in around the shape that I want to have here for my farmhouse village. Or maybe this is an old mill or something on the banks of the river. So this is cutting out around here is helping me to create the shape now of the building. So I'm painting the reverse of it. Okay, now just be careful you don't end up with a rounded shape up there too much. And we need to have one bit that's going to come up just a little bit more, stop the eye running. You don't want the eye to run around there and straight out of the picture. So I just bring the edge of it there right up. Carefully cut around the shape of your building and get the outer shape right, and then you'll be fine with this. This is really a simple process. I'll go a bit redder, okay, a little bit redder in there now, and we'll just, well, probably not much redder, but anyway, I'll put some foreground foliage in there, run that into the banks of the river. So automatically you can see there's something happening, there's a little bit of interest going on, and we're starting to get a little bit of a indication of a nice little French provincial setting here, right? Lots of nice purples in there for our drawing. Like to use those for my shadow colour as a dark. And if you look at some of Cézanne's paintings, which is what I've been doing a little bit the last few days, then you'll see that he used a lot of purple in his shadows and things. So a little bit of a mountain peeking through, which is good. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to mimic the shadow into the water. Okay, this is a really important part of it. May as well do it while you're in this blocking into the darks kind of phase. But here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to just run the brush up and down. I will just moisten this lower section a little bit more, okay, which will thin the paint out. It'll also help the paint just flow on a little bit smoother. I don't mind if the paint's a little bit thin for this, because I'm going to do a bit of work over this. So in that section there, it's just going to not be as not going to go down as far. We're going to leave a little bit of space for the sky to shine through. Okay, and we've got a little bit in there. And I'm not going to paint the tones in for the stone building just yet. We'll come back to that. Okay, so just roughly something like that. And again, I'm just making this up. I'm not copying any photo reference or like we normally do. This one is just purely out of my head. But I looked at a couple of hundred paintings of Cézanne's over the last few days, went back through my books, and so you draw inspiration from that. And we don't copy, but we go, okay, well, there was a certain approach that he was using, obviously. And let's see if we can just create a nice little French scene with a similar sort of inspiration. Obviously not the same. He was working from life. I don't just want to do a blue and white sky. I want to create some drama and some atmosphere in the sky. So what we'll do is just do that. I'll get Kevin Yellow medium. So I've got my three main colours that we always use. I'm going to add my booster colour in now. Just get it in early, and we'll pop that into the sky. Okay, now that'll be reflected in our foliage and so on. But we'll make it a nice sort of glowing sky up this end, and that'll sort of be reflecting onto the building here. So I've got a brand new brush. Take a swipe of that cad yellow, take a swipe of the yellow ochre, a little bit of the red just to get a little bit of orange in there, and a chunk of the white. And let's just see what we've got. I mean, I don't know yet, but okay, that's looking good. Don't over mix it. A little pinhead more of red perhaps, and a little touch more of white. Try and keep that broken colour in there. That'll be beautiful. Okay, now have a look at that. Okay, I'm not overly mixing that paint, but I've got a big chunk of that paint. Why have I got a big chunk? Because it'll go better, when I scrub it in like that. Okay. Now I know that unsettles some people, which is fine. I do it with confidence because why? Because I've done it a few hundred times. The more you paint, the more confidence you'll get. Because I know I can't really muck it up. I can't really make errors with this because it's acrylic paint. It'll be dry in half an hour. I don't like it. We'll just say goodbye to it. Right, it's fantastic. We just get to recreate it if we don't like the way it turns out. So be a little daring and bold in what you're doing. Okay. So just around the edges there, a little bit of extra moisture. Okay, and then I'll take a swipe of this blue and I'll work it. I won't come directly into that orange just yet. Okay, just work it around here and there. I'm going to lose some of those nice edges that I've already made here in the trees, but we'll refine those. Okay, into there. Blurring a little bit of that purple, that's okay. Okay, a bit of that corner, maybe a little bit more there. Okay. And a little bit along this. And then I'll start to work it up just ever so slightly into that sunny area, that sort of late afternoon sun that's lighting up the sky as it sets over the hill. Okay, so we're doing a painting here that's sort of late afternoon, end of the day, which is a nice time of day to be painting, really, isn't it? All right, I think I'm going to leave that one where it is to dry. It's a little bit murky up in here. That's okay. We'll put highlights over that and it will all be fine when we pull it all together. So, made a good start. Now we need to let it dry and come back, and then we'll pull this all together, and we'll spend a bit of time detailing up the stone building, getting the reflection right there. And then it's a matter of just creating some interesting foliage, okay? And then replicating that in the reflections here, and I'll put a little bit more detail work in the water so that we've got some lily ponds and things like that, just add a bit of foreground interest. This is going to be a great little painting, and look forward to seeing your version of it. Let's have a break, half an hour, and then we'll come back with step 3 after that and finish this painting off. I'll see you then. Okay, welcome back, friends. Made a pretty good start on this one. I like the way it's settling down. And we're now going to do step 3 of the Moore method of painting, which is our details, highlights, finishing touches, and so on. Just dropping down to a small brush or a medium brush, and we will now start to get in some work on this old stone farmhouse here. And I'm going to use sort of terracotta earthy tones. Just give my palette a bit of a moisten up. Let that run a little bit if it needs to. Yeah, so we want to use sort of earthy tones in this, and it's an old, French stone building. So I'll mix up our magenta and our yellow ochre, and let's just block all that in. I will put in some highlights on one side soon, but for now let's just block in like so. And again, I've said this in the first section, don't overmix your paint. Let the paint come out in a sort of a broken fashion so that it does give a bit of variety as it comes off the brush. Okay, it's such a important thing to learn if you want to paint sort of a impressionistic, looser kind of style, is we want to have that broken colour in there. Okay, so I'll get a little bit more red here now. And we'll paint the roof a little bit redder. Probably even go a bit redder than that. There we go, that's a bit better. We'll put some shadow under there in a moment. Okay. Like so. Kind of looks a little bit like a church, but that's okay. A stone building or a church, either one. And just drag some of that colour into the river or the lake. Again, just using some horizontal strokes up and down. I don't care if that paint gets a little thin. It's just a starting point for us for the moment. Okay. A little bit thin there, but we'll just get a bit of extra paint in there. Okay, so we're starting to get a little bit of a feel now as to what's going to be happening in this painting, which is good. I'll grab a smaller brush. We'll take a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the red. Well, basically that purple there. I might add just a touch of white to it, and I'll get it a little bit bluer. push it a little bit on the blue side. There we go. And I'll just run that in there as a shadow. Like so. And the key with this is not to have too much paint on the brush. We don't want the paint to come off in a cluggy, blocky way. We want it to be fairly loose and light. We'll just start to shape up some of the edges of that foliage there. So there's a little bit of light over on that side, so our light's going to be coming in that direction. And just work the brush around. Just little taps is really all it needs. Make sure you keep plenty of that shadow intact. The temptation is to block out all the shadow, but that isn't what we want to do. Okay, now get a little bit of the cad yellow into that, just to pick it up a little here and there. All right, it's looking good. Just keep building up this foliage here. And I want to place a larger, or a closer bush here that's going to be a little bit warmer. So I'll get more of the cad yellow into it like that, and then we'll put this one in the front here. Okay. So just warm it up, and that warmer tone will just help it all sit into the front there. Nice. Okay, now I'll go a little bit bluer on the other end, so we get more blue-green, a little pinhead of the red, and a touch of the white. And we'll just work some of that into these distant trees here. So I want those to look like they're out the back, hence the reason why I went a little bit bluer. Just take that warmer tone here and just block in a little bit more of that. Okay, and then with that tone, just pull some of that into the bottom of it there, like there, for the reflection. Now this tree here, we want to try and get a slightly different feel, so I'll go a little bit more yellow ochre and a bit more of the magenta, and let's just see what we can come up with for that. We might put a variety of tones in here. we'll leave a fair bit of that bottom corner there into shadow. It's good. Now remember, we're trying to create atmosphere for this. We want it to look like it's at sort of the end of the day, dusk. So keep that in mind. I'll just drag some of the greens into the reflections here. Good. Those reflections are starting to look good there now. And they're not too dominant and strong, which means we could layer things over the top of that if we want to and come up with a nice effect, which is kind of what we want to do. Okay, so I'm just going to strengthen up shadows here. Put in a few windows and things. Okay. Now we don't want to paint that exactly in for our reflection. I'll take a little bit of dark, and what we want to do is just drag the paint down for those dark accents, like so. Just little indications is what we want. Okay. I'll head back to a slightly smaller brush. Get our yellow ochre, we'll get titanium white. Now I just want to create the effect of some sunlight hitting on this wall. Okay. Just on that end wall there. And then we'll just drag that. Whoop. Into it, just going to fix up that shadow again. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add in some cerulean blue mixed with our cadmium yellow. So we're going to use two booster colours. Now if you don't have cerulean blue, just use your ultramarine or cobalt blue. I'm just doing it just to get a slightly brighter green in here. And I add those two together. So we can get in just a couple of indications of little bits of foliage and things there. So I'll just scrape through the blue and the yellow. It's going to give me a slightly more vibrant tone. I could tone it back a little bit with the magenta if it gets too out of control. And horizontally, okay. I'll just start building up a little patch. So this green is going to be, you know, quite a bit more vibrant than the other greens, which is why I've added that cerulean blue in for that particular reason. Okay. And notice I've got it partly going against the partly against the darks and partly against the lights there. And I'm doing this quite abstract, you know, like I'm just putting little marks there. I'm not trying to paint anything in particular. You can take more time and care with it if you want. Okay, so see I've got it over the dark and I've got it over the light area, and that just helps to create the effect that it's sitting on top of some water. Now I'm not going to overdo it. Temptation will be just to add in tons and tons of these. Cover the whole water area. I don't think that's probably what we want. Need to let plenty of room for it to breathe. Just something like that. Now with that, you could then take some white, a little bit of the magenta or alizarin crimson, get a softish pink, okay. Take up a bit of a swipe of that paint and just put some indications of some flowers on top of it. But again, you know, it's really important that we exercise a level of restraint in doing this, because I know what you're like, right? You're going to overdo it. Well, I'm going to anyway. So try not to be the one who overdoes it. Yeah, I think we're going to leave it there. We've got to a point where, you know, if you're a beginner to intermediate painter and you're able to create a nice little scene like that, that would be something you'd be proud to do and to hang up on the wall. And if you want to detail it up a bit more, you can do that. There's lots you could do, work on the tree foliage and things like that, a bit more detail on the building and the reflections. So there's lots of things you could do to really detail it more if you're a bit more advanced and looking for more of a challenge. But I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm happy with the way it's sitting at the moment. I particularly love this orange reflection in the water and this drama in the sky and the mood that creates, and the punchiness of the vibrant greens in the foreground with the flowers. I think that's created a nice effect. So don't think we'll do too much more to that one. So hope you've enjoyed it. It's a little made up French villa on a river or a lake. One we just made up, and I wanted to do that today because we always use photo reference or some sort of reference, and I thought I should show you how to make up a scene. You know, like I was looking at books of Cezanne and so on, and got inspired by his style, and I thought, let's just have a go at just trying to create something that's sort of that style, but completely made up. And I think what we'll come up with is not a bad little composition and not a bad little subject. So have a go at this one. Hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. Make sure you drop by the Learn to Paint Academy, I'll put the address underneath me, www.learntopaint.academy, for a free course that'll teach you how to paint in this style, the more method of painting in more detail. And check out every episode of Learn to Paint TV at www.learntopaint.tv. And I'll see you next time on Learn to Paint TV. Cheers for now.